Welcome to Global Feed. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. On May 6, the Oval Office was transformed into a battleground of clashing ambitions and national pride. The air was thick with anticipation, as the world's eyes turned to Washington, waiting to see which leader would blink first. President Trump, determined to rewrite trade rules for America's benefit, faced off against Canada's new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, a central banker turned national defender. Trump's reputation for hardline tactics preceded him, while Carney, known for his calm resolve, was stepping into the global spotlight in a new role. The meeting, intended to find common ground, instead exposed a widening rift between the two allies. What began as a diplomatic exchange quickly escalated into a test of endurance and strategy, with each side unwilling to yield. Trump demanded more concessions, calling the current trade frameworks outdated and unfair. He insisted that America's interests had been sidelined for too long, and that it was time for a new deal that put the United States first. Carney, carrying the hopes of Canadian workers and industries, pushed back with equal force. He warned that tariffs and protectionist measures would hurt both economies, risking jobs and prosperity on both sides of the border. For Carney, this was about more than numbers. It was about protecting the livelihoods of millions. Despite polite words for the cameras, the talks were tense and direct, with no breakthroughs. Behind closed doors, the atmosphere was charged, and every word was weighed for its impact on the fragile relationship. The core issue was bigger than trade. It was about sovereignty, pride, and two competing visions for North America's future. Both leaders saw themselves as guardians of their nation's destiny, unwilling to compromise on what they believed was right. As the meeting ended, uncertainty loomed, leaving both nations bracing for the next move in a high-stakes economic standoff. The unresolved tensions cast a long shadow, with the potential to reshape alliances and economies. The world watched, knowing the outcome would shape the continent for years to come. In that moment, the fate of millions rested on the decisions made behind closed doors in the heart of the White House. President Trump's America First strategy is straightforward in its intent, but sweeping in its consequences. At its core, the doctrine is about putting American interests above all else, regardless of the cost to traditional alliances or global norms. The main tool, tariffs, used not just as economic levers but as blunt instruments to force trading partners, even America's closest allies, to bend to U.S. demands and priorities. In 2025, Trump imposed steep tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, and most critically, automobiles. These measures struck directly at the heart of Canada's manufacturing sector, threatening a cornerstone of the nation's economy and putting thousands of jobs at risk. Trump justified these moves as essential for national security and the revival of American industry. He argued that the U.S. must regain control over its own supply chains, reducing reliance on foreign goods, and protecting American workers from what he called unfair competition. The timing was no accident. The tariffs landed during a heated Canadian federal election, amplifying their impact and sending a clear message. No country, not even a neighbor and ally, is exempt from Trump's hard-nosed, transactional approach to international relations. These tariffs were more than just a negotiating tactic. They were a bold declaration that, under Trump, every trade relationship is viewed as a zero-sum game, where one nation's gain is another's loss. For Canada, the impact was immediate and severe. Factories slowed or shut down, workers faced layoffs, and entire communities braced for economic uncertainty as industries across the country felt the shockwaves. Trump's gamble was clear. By turning up the pressure, he believed Canada would eventually have no choice but to concede to American demands at the negotiating table. But this aggressive stance came with risks. It threatened to upend decades of trust, cooperation, and economic integration between the two nations, casting a shadow over the future of North American relations. The world took note. America's closest friends were now fair game, and the global order was shifting in real time. Under intense international and domestic pressure, Prime Minister Carney delivered a message that electrified the nation: Canada is not for sale, ever. His words echoed through Parliament and across the country, instantly becoming a defining moment in Canadian political history. He forcefully rejected Trump's provocative hints about annexation, drawing a clear, unmistakable line on Canadian sovereignty. Carney's stance was not just a rebuttal, it was a bold affirmation of the nation's independence and dignity. Carney's calm but unwavering defiance resonated deeply at home, transforming him from a respected technocrat into a national champion almost overnight. Canadians from coast to coast watched as he stood firm, refusing to be intimidated. His declaration quickly became a rallying cry, uniting Canadians across political lines and backgrounds against what many saw as blatant American bullying. The sense of unity was palpable, with citizens rallying together in support. Even Carney's political opponents, often quick to criticize, praised his resolve. They recognized this moment as a rare turning point, one that transcended party politics and demanded a united front. Framing the dispute as a test of national character, Carney vowed that Canadians would remain masters in our own home. He called on Parliament to stand together, emphasizing the importance of unity in the face of external threats. Carney's approach was clear: reject provocation, remain diplomatic, but never yield on core principles. He balanced firmness with statesmanship, sending a message to the world that Canada would not be pushed around. In doing so, he shifted the narrative from one of victimhood to one of resilience and strength, defining Canada's resistance on its own terms and inspiring a renewed sense of national pride. The country stood firmly behind him, united and ready for the fight ahead, determined to defend their sovereignty no matter the cost. Canada didn't just talk, it hit back with targeted tariffs on U.S. goods, aiming to inflict political and economic pain. Ottawa's countermeasures targeted key American exports, from agriculture to manufacturing, signaling Canada wouldn't back down. At home, the Buy Canadian movement surged, with consumers and businesses rallying to support local products. Supermarkets highlighted Canadian goods, and online forums buzzed with tips for avoiding U.S. brands. The campaign boosted domestic sales and fostered a new sense of unity, but also hardened attitudes toward the U.S. Meanwhile, Carney's government accelerated efforts to diversify trade, seeking new partners in Europe and Asia. The goal: reduce dependence on the U.S. and ensure Canada's economic future is never again so vulnerable. The trade war had become a catalyst for lasting change. Nowhere was the fallout more severe than in the auto industry, where U.S. and Canadian factories had long operated as one. Trump's tariffs shattered this integration, making cross-border production costly and uncertain. In cities like Windsor and Oshawa, layoffs loomed as plants slowed or shut down. American automakers too faced higher costs and warned of job losses and price hikes. The very policy meant to protect U.S. jobs now threatened them, as the supply chain buckled. In response, Carney proposed building a self-sufficient Canadian auto sector, a dramatic shift from decades of integration. The industry, once a symbol of cooperation, now faced a painful reckoning, one that could reshape North America for years. The old model was breaking down, and no one knew what would replace it. Beyond the headlines, the trade war's human cost was stark. In Windsor, a veteran auto worker feared for his job and mourned the unraveling ties with Detroit. "We're not enemies, we build things together. This feels like a divorce we never asked for," he said. In Buffalo, a logistics manager struggled with delays and lost clients, watching decades-old business ties fray. Even a Wisconsin dairy farmer caught by Canada's counter-tariffs questioned the wisdom of policies that hurt allies and neighbors. Yet, amid anxiety, Canadians rallied. Local businesses saw a surge in support, and national pride soared. A Quebec furniture maker, buoyed by the Buy Canadian movement, found hope in solidarity. The continent's emotional landscape was a mix of fear, frustration, and newfound fortitude. The partnership that once seemed unbreakable was now deeply in question. As autumn approached, the U.S.-Canada standoff showed no signs of easing. Both Trump and Carney were locked into their positions, with domestic audiences demanding toughness. All eyes turned to the G7 summit in Alberta, a potential turning point or a stage for further conflict. The summit could offer a path to compromise, or deepen the rift if public clashes overshadowed diplomacy. Other G7 leaders watched closely, seeing the dispute as a test of how to deal with a more protectionist America. The outcome would shape not just North America, but global alliances for years. For now, uncertainty reigned, as supply chains strained and old assumptions crumbled. The question remained: could these neighbors repair their fractured partnership, or was a new era of rivalry here to stay?